for staying with us. We continue with this developing story. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has received the most ANC branch nominations for the party president. However, his chances of being re-elected may be far from secure. There are still chances that other candidates may be nominated from the floor at the party's ANC conference. Now, the Phala farm theft scandal is still hanging over Ramaphosa's head. Let's make sense of who the contenders for the top leadership positions could be. I'm joined by Professor Willam Gumede from the School of Governance at Wits University. Prof, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Now, the contest to lead the ANC is heating up as we get nearer to the party's much-anticipated elective conference at Newzroom. Now, despite receiving the most ANC branch nominations for party president, President Cyril Ramaphosa's chances of being re-elected are far from secure, especially if this week's events are anything to go by. What is at play here, considering we are looking at an ANC that's going to this conference as a deeply divided party?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be with you. I think often what happens if a presidential elections normally in ANC conferences, it's not always the branches, the majority of branches that matters. If you look back, for example, at Newzroom conference, the previous Newzroom conference, and now this the 2018 conference. That conference, Ace Magashule, for example, had less branch nominations than Sensu Mchunu at the time. But then Ace Magashule actually won on the day. And at the same conference, the cat, Didi Mabuza, he actually had almost no nominations, and he was given the job of deputy presidency of the ANC on the conference itself, in a deal with Cyril Ramaphosa in which he would give his support base to Cyril Ramaphosa to become the president, and he becomes the deputy president. So, although the branches gives us a good view of where things may go, everything may change at the conference itself. And the other thing about branches is, the delegates that goes there on behalf of the branches often do not vote. In fact, in most cases, do not vote according to their branch mandates, but they vote, sometimes in their own individual capacity.
Now, given this past history and having the most nominations ahead of the ANC National Conference, it does not get one automatically voted in at this actual conference. Please elaborate on your assessment that even if President Cyril Ramaphosa gets re-elected at the conference, he may be immediately ousted because of the Phala farm scandal and also may be replaced. Worse, both leading ANC presidential candidates based on branch nominations, including Willam Gumede as well, these Ramaphosa and Gumede, if elected, risk being removed from the party leadership after the conference because of these corruption allegations against the respective men.
I mean, this week changed almost everything for Cyril Ramaphosa because the Phala now controversies now went into overdrive after the inquiry that found him to have the wrongdoing, constitutional wrongdoing, in a couple of places. So that changes the game. So I mean, the real danger here is going to the ANC conference. Where either, members could decide at the conference itself, if Ramaphosa doesn't resign, for example, then members could decide, look, rather than vote for Ramaphosa, if there's a cloud hanging around him, let's look for another candidate. And then, obviously, the second most branch support is Willam Gumede. But remember, Willam Gumede also, he also is faced with quite a lot of allegations of wrongdoing. And then, the delegates could decide, look, you know what, if Ramaphosa is out of the way, we're not going to go for Willam Gumede because, he's also potentially, investigations into him. And then they may then, nominate a totally alternative candidate that may not be right at the top. And some of the people there, for example, Professor Dlamini Zuma, Lindiwe Sisulu, also has some nominations. But, the delegates can go beyond all of them and, for example, vote, say, for, the current group that are contesting the deputy presidency job, Paul Masatila on the one hand, the Justice Minister, Lamola on the other hand. So, potentially, the deputy presidency contest, could actually become the presidency contest at the ANC conference.
I have to test you on that. I mean, the position of Deputy President at the conference has, like you're saying, taken an extraordinary importance, as the person in that position actually stands to become the president or of the ANC if either Ramaphosa or Mkhize gets elected, then removed.
Let me just give you theoretically, for example, if let's just say Ramaphosa does not resign and, he says, look, because this, today, for example, his team and his advisors have been saying, look, Ramaphosa, take the task team recommendations on a review, because that's very legitimate. Anyone can take recommendations from a task team on a review. And, that obviously would take some time. Let's just say that's the route, and Ramaphosa goes to the conference and he gets voted in as the ANC president. Then you have to remember there's another process in Parliament, so the opposition parties, will, after the task team recommendations into Pala, what they will do, the very next thing, most probably, Monday or beyond that, they will lodge or they will call for a vote of no confidence or impeachment. So that's a route. So let's just say Ramaphosa gets elected as the ANC president very early next year. There is a vote of no confidence or impeachment. And it is not certain how many MPs of the ANC will vote with the opposition. So that could be one way also that Ramaphosa then may face, because the parliamentary process is a totally different process. So again, there may be a possibility then, so he becomes the ANC president, but through the parliamentary process, possibly a vote of no confidence, his opposition within the ANC may mobilize and vote with the opposition. That is a real possibility. Then the ANC then will have to say, well, actually, we need to get another president. And then whoever then is the deputy president, possibly say Paul Masatile becomes the deputy president, just an example, he would then, step in to become the president. So this, for the first time, is certainly the most open elections of the ANC conference since 1949, the conference in 1949, the ANC, when the ANC did, there was a dramatic leadership change in the 1949 conference, where Walter Sisulu, for example, at the time was elected general secretary. He was very, very young at the time, and he came out of nowhere, and that conference changed the ANC dramatic. So we may be again, at that moment, a historical moment for the ANC in this leadership context.
Also interesting in your analysis that you say that different provinces and slates could also strike alliances around specific candidates at the conference, even without nominations from branches ahead of the conference. If we look back, ANC Deputy President David Mabuza secured his current position at the 2018 National Conference by striking a last-minute deal with the Ramaphosa slate, which would switch from Dlamini Zuma at the time, then Ramaphosa's opponent. Now, as a reward, he got the position of ANC Deputy President. Speak to us about that aspect.
No, absolutely. So again, the uncertainty, and particularly this year, the uncertainty in the ANC is that, at the conference itself, many of the delegates, for example, who nominated Ramaphosa can say, after this Pala a committee, let's just change, let's go look for somebody else. And, so caucuses, even now, between now and the conference, it is very likely that at this moment, there's a lot of caucusing going on between provinces, new deals are struck, and so on. And, so different provinces could, for example, band together and go against the branch nominations and then vote for somebody totally out of, different, not for Ramaphosa or not for Willam Gumede, although, the branches of these provinces nominated either Ramaphosa or Willam Gumede.
Judging by what you're saying, it would seem that it is the norm, as seen in the past, where often delegates were voting according to their preferences of individuals over the branches. Now, also interesting is that branches back home cannot hold their representatives accountable for voting differently from the official opposition there.
That's a difficulty because, in a system, in a party system where the branches nominate, it's very difficult because the whole branch doesn't go to the conference. It's a delegates or 2 or 3 delegates, depending on the size of the branch. Now, there's a governance problem in that, is that how does the branch then hold its delegates accountable for the Browns recommendations, because, delegates, unless the Browns ask for the delegate to take a photo of the votes and bring the photo back, but I mean, really, one can't do that. So it's from a governance point of view, that really is a problem. That is why, other mass parties, like, let's just say like the French Socialist Party and so on, parties like, there's a bit like the ANC, what they do is every member has a vote rather than a Browns vote. So that's much more better from a governance point of view. I was in the 2017 consultative conference of the ANC, which was then organized by stalwarts and veterans of the ANC, and I did, I chaired one of the sessions for them, and one of the discussions, at that consultative conference was 2017 was maybe change the system, clean up the governance, and make it more democratic to give every member a vote rather than a Browns vote. Because that really is where the complications become. Because I mean, if you the Browns delegate and your Brown says you have to vote for Ramaphosa, you go there to the conference and you vote for Willam Gumede. I mean, how do you hold that person accountable? That delegate. So it's a really critical governance flaw in the voting system of the ANC.
Now, before I let you go, and on a side issue, there has been this growing pressure, especially by opposition parties, for accountability on the part of the president over the findings of that independent panel on the Phala Phala investigations. What do you make of this growing pressure for the president to do the right thing and step aside?
I understand. So normally, what normally happens in these sort of cases, if one objects and the president says, well, he's been wronged in the recommendations from that inquiry, then one take it for review. So I think possibly the review is one option, and it seems that's where the president is going. But that doesn't mean the opposition parties cannot go the parliamentary way and, convene, special parliamentary sitting and then institute a vote of no confidence and have all members of parliament vote on it. So where we are now, just from a practical point of view in the whole sort of thing, I think it's very likely that Ramaphosa is going to take this, report for a review. That doesn't happen overnight. Possibly it may happen only early next year, and that in the interim clears him, well, not clear him, but, sort of temporarily gives him the space to contest in the ANC elections. But as I say, the opposition parties can still, go ahead with the parliamentary process. Obviously, to do that, they must also get significant number of ANC MPs to support them.
That was Willam Gumede, Associate Professor at the School of Governance at the University of the Witwatersrand.